This is Chris Kelly, just a quick walkthrough on setting up a macro-based diet. Macro-based dieting is what I recommend for individuals trying to lose that last 5 pounds, or those trying to build muscle without gaining body fat, or simply trying to maintain muscle tone or build muscle tone without gaining much body weight. Now, with macro-based dieting, we're going to go through a series of steps here. So step one is we want to determine our calorie needs. The basic premise behind macro-based dieting is that we figure out how many calories that we need, as well as how many our ratios of fat, carbs, and protein. As long as we stay in those ratios, then we're good. We can have, things like donuts or beer or things that you want to fit in that would traditionally be seen as cheat foods. That's really a myth. As long as we stay in these ratios, as you can see below here, you can budget for that, and that really helps out a lot. So our first step is just to use a macro calculator to set up our calories for our height, weight, and goals. And then once we get our ratios, we'll talk a little bit more about how that's done. But let's go ahead and go to the calculator that I like to use for that. So this is what is called iifym.com. This is if it fits your macros. All right, and this site, it's a great, very, very user-friendly website. There's a lot of advertisements on there, though, so be careful. So what we're going to do is we're going to calculate my macros. Okay, so I'm a 33-year-old male. All right, I'm 5'8", maybe 5'9", and I weigh 173 pounds. Okay, so that's our first step. From there, I want to figure out how active I am. So I'm a trainer. I'm on my feet all day, so I'm pretty active. So I'm going to click active, and how many times a week, how many days per week I work out. I work out 5 days a week. So from there, I probably work out about 45 minutes at a time. I'm going to put that information in. I would rate mine as difficult. Okay, so if you look at my macros right now, you have your BMR, which is basal metabolism, which is just the number of calories that you need to stay alive, and then the TDEE is like everything. It's factoring in your activity. So when we go down here, these are my numbers for my different goals. Okay, and so let's say fat loss is my goal. Okay, I'm going to choose either a more aggressive or reckless fat loss strategy, or a suggested one, which is a little bit more conservative. And that's the percentage is like the number of calories, the caloric deficit. So generally I recommend, keeping it at about 20%. If your goal was gaining muscle mass, you could come over here and click that, but we're going to go with fat loss. And so I go below here, and there are different diets that you can choose from. I recommend sticking with iifym, as does the website, and sticking with these general ratios. These were plugged in because these are most useful for the most amount of people. And then we just scroll down and we look at the number of calories. Okay, so it tells me that, all right, I'm going to be eating 230 grams of carbs a day, 138 grams of protein, 69 grams of fat, and about 2,100 calories. All right, and that seems like a lot of like gobbledygook when you first see that. But in our next step, I'll teach you how to, how to make that a little more simple. But let's write that stuff down. All right, and let's go ahead and look at our next step. All right, so I've got my calories here, and you'll notice that what I've done is I've created ratios. Okay, so generally with carbs and protein, that's going to be about 15 grams, and for fat, it's going to be about 5. So as long as you fit in those ratios, you're good. And I'll count up. So like if my carbs were 150 per day, I'd go from 150 to 175, and then the same for protein, and etc. So the first step, we get our calories down. Second step is we create a nutrition log. All right, so myfitnesspal.com, I recommend. It's just the most user-friendly site that I've come across. Certainly there are others that are good, but this is the one that I recommend. From there we want to input our daily calories and our ratios. All right, and that's going to help us to create our diet, as you'll see in our next step. But this is going to give us an idea of what we do and how much we're eating, and if things are plateauing, we can take some stuff out and put it in. And I'm a big believer in that. We need to know what we're doing in order to understand, where we go from there. So again, we use our flexible ranges, and we kind of plug those things in. As long as you hit those ranges, you're going to be pretty good in MyFitnessPal. But let's go ahead and look at that real quick. So I go to MyFitnessPal. I'm sorry, that's FitClick. I go to MyFitnessPal and I click food. That's going to take me up to logging. Okay, and you see that I can put in my number of calories that I need, and I need to change that a little bit, but that's not so important. You can play around with it a little bit. The main thing is that I want to really show you here is how to make it user friendly. So when I'm adding breakfast, what we'll teach you in your next step is kind of playing around with foods that you like and recipes that you like to kind of plug in your macros before you actually eat anything. What it is, it takes a little bit of work on the front end, but that's going to be a step. So what I want you to think about doing is, again, just putting in the foods that you like, putting in the things that could potentially meet those ratios. And then once you do, I can click Add Food. And I can use either recent foods, which are the things that I use all the time. And this is good because it makes it very easy. So if you stick to basically, the same things over a period of time, it's going to be real easy just to click it and plug it in. Or you could click, you can go to meals and find recipe. You could add in actual meals that you've made, which again make it very easy. You could click on My Foods and you could do the same thing. Or you could search. You could type in eggs or whatever else. So that's pretty useful, because once you get your food in there and once you're able to input things, it's going to be very easy to change things up. And, as you build, that's going to be something that's going to make it really user friendly for you. But going back, one thing that I wanted to highlight is Quick Tools, because the good thing with Quick Tools is you can click on that and you can just copy from yesterday or copy from a specific date. One thing that we're going to teach you in your next step is figuring out basically 2 days of meals that fit your macros and that you like a lot. That way you can just go back and forth between those 2 meals and really prep easily, fit things in without having to think about, oh God, how do I prep for 7 days in a row? It just makes things a lot user friendly. So what I like to do is I'll pick 2 days of meals, my snacks and my meals that I like a lot, and I'll just prep for those days and I'll keep my diet that way. I'll just eat day 1 and day 2 back to back, for 2 to 4 weeks, and then change it up a little bit. But once you have that, you can literally just copy from the day before, whatever, plug it in, and you'll know what your macros are. So, I think that's pretty useful. But moving on to our third step would be setting up our nutrition. So based upon these numbers, in MyFitnessPal, we want to plug in foods and recipes that we actually like, to figure out what we eat for those 2 days. We have day 1, our meals and our snacks. Day 2, our meals and our snacks. I would recommend eating 5 times a day, but again, you could have one large meal or whatever suits your palate, as long as it fits your ratios. And it'll take a little bit of work on the front end. You're going to have to take an hour or so to really play around with things that you like, and plug them in. But doing it that way makes it incredibly easy. And so we choose 2 days worth of meals, and then we swap them out every 2 to 4 weeks, and that's kind of what a nutritionist would do. If they were working with you like that, they wouldn't give you like, here's 7 days worth of meals, and here's another week's and another week's. Create 2 days, make it simple. It really cuts down on prep time, which is really useful and which I like a lot. We don't have to think too much about it, which is really quite important when we're talking about, dieting and kind of sticking to that. So let's say you just don't want to go through all that hassle. You want another way to figure it out. Another website that I like a lot is called FitClick. Right, FitClick is basically it creates diets for you. Okay, and some of them, the problem with this one is, it will create a diet for you, and it'll create kind of randomized foods that fit your macros, but you may or may not like them, and again, you're gonna have to play around. But it is a good option. So I'm gonna click. Once you create an account, you'll be brought to this screen. I'm gonna go to Diet, click Diet Tracker. Okay, so in this one I'd already chosen diet, so I'm just going to click Switch Plan. Now what I want to do is click Set Up Your Diet, so just choose that. Alright, it'll give you a list of things that you can choose from. I just click No Plan. So I'm gonna click my 2100 calories, and I'm gonna put in my ratios. Okay, so you'll have to play around with this a little bit, but generally, if it fits your macros, is a 40-40-20. So 40% carbs, 40% protein, 20% fat. And again, you can play around with this until it kind of fits into the ratios that you set for yourself. But you can go down. Okay, so I'm going to click Submit. Okay, so now I have my calories, and you'll notice again it creates ratios, like pretty similar to what I talked about. From there, we can click Get Meals. All right, so again, we talked about meals for 2 days. So I'm going to say custom dates. I'll say from, it's September, and I don't even know what day it is, September 6th to September, let's say 8th. I'll click submit. Okay, so it's going to generate meals in those, in those ratios for me. So it kind of fits those boxes. Now, you can go down and kind of click on the recipes and see whether you like this stuff, or you could change it by just clicking swap meal, and you can play around with that. But the cool thing is with this, we can do a couple different things. We can click on print, and list our dates. And it'll give me the recipes for all those things. So how I cook it, that kind of thing. So if you're looking for just kind of something new, this would be just kind of a good way to do it. You know what you have to buy, and I think that's a useful thing. What you can also do is actually generate a shopping list, which is also really useful. So I get a grocery list. Click grocery list. And again, similar, I just click from, my dates. But as you can see here, you have your you have all the things that you need to buy, which is good. It helps you to kind of customize it somewhat. From there, I'm just going to click create diet just so I can save this in my account. So I'm going to click what was planned, 6th to the 8th. I'm just going to click Fat Loss Diet 1, or whatever it is. You can give a description of however that is, and click submit. And then under your program from then on, you could use that diet in the future and kind of revisit it. So it's quite useful, and something that kind of simplifies things a little bit better. And so for step 4, which is I'm not going to get too much into, but we want to create our shopping list, if you're doing this on your own. And then set aside 1 to 3 hours on 2 days to shop, and prepare. And that's, just setting aside time to do your prep work with the food that you purchase and do your shopping. Generally, when I'm doing prep work, I'm going to do like a day 1. Generally, I'll do like a Sunday or Saturday prep until like Wednesday or Thursday. And then I'll do a more minor prep for the rest of the week just to get me through the week. But the bottom line is, it does require some maintenance and some work, but it is well worth it. What I recommend, partner up with a friend or a family member to prep together, and then you can really kind of simplify that, and it's a good way to kind of get people together. OrganizeYourselfSkinny.com is a great website for prep suggestions, as well as Reddit. That's a great site to just research for anything related to what you're doing, and just maybe type in meal prep or meal prep Sunday, and it can get you some good information for that. But that's really the conclusion of our presentation. Hope this is helpful. Please feel free to give me any questions that you have, and good luck in your prep.